Hello, you're listening to DNA Today. I'm informing you on what's happening in the genetic world. The show is packed with news stories and lessons, all to keep you updated and educated on the ever-changing world of genetics. You can tune in every Monday at 11:30 a.m. to hear me live on WHUS.org or on the radio, 91.7 FM. And today I am talking about an event that happened at UCONN last Wednesday. It was a breast and ovarian cancer event. I'm also going to be talking about the Surgeon General having a family health history initiative, and Thanksgiving is coming up, and he has declared Thanksgiving as the family history day of the year, where you should discuss these things with your families to really get a better understanding of what your background is. And also a new partnership for UCONN with JAX, the Jackson Laboratory for Genomic Medicine here at, it's on the UCONN Health campus, but now there's actually a partnership between them. So lots of interesting things to talk about today. So I'm going to start with this event that happened last Wednesday. The event title was Understanding Your Risk for Breast and Ovarian Cancer, a discussion for students as consumers and future healthcare providers. So this event featured a panel of experts, including a certified genetic counselor, Robin Schwartz, who works at UConn Health and has been in the field for almost 40 years. So she really has a really good perspective on the field and how things have changed. That was really key, and she was able to speak a lot to that. And I've had her on the show before. I worked with her last summer, and she really has a lot of good insight on the relationship between patients and genetic counselors, the relationship between patients and doctors, the lack of use of genetic counselors within healthcare, and really the need for more genetic counselors to be hired and used and trained. We talked a little bit about during the panel, someone asked if genetic counselors are needed so much, how come there isn't a lot of genetic counseling programs? There really aren't many in the U.S. and Canada, and it's very competitive to get into. So we kind of identified a problem during the event that Robin has been focused on for years. But it's a really serious problem that there needs to be more genetic counseling schools open to the public to be able to enroll, because the need for genetic counselors is so high and we're not pumping them out fast enough. So other than the certified genetic counselor, Robin Schwartz, there were also members of the Department of Public Health Genomics Advisory, physicians, and also cancer survivors, and a family member of a cancer survivor. So there was an interactive presentation about family history tool education and cancer genomic best practices. There's also a discussion with medical personnel and patients about identifying risk factors for hereditary breast and ovarian cancer, genetic testing, how to find a qualified genetic personnel, sharing a BRCA diagnosis, and ethical issues surrounding genetic testing. So a lot was covered in this event. It was about 2 hours, and it was hosted at the Hillel House here on UConn Stores campus. And I'll kind of take you through the event and little parts that I learned throughout the night. And to start the program, Robin Schwartz, the genetic counselor, gave an overview of what genetic counseling is and why Ashkenazi Jewish people are at a higher risk for breast cancer and ovarian cancer than the general public. So some interesting facts she was sharing with us was about 1 in 40 people of Jewish descent have a BRCA mutation. This is about 10-fold higher than other populations or the general population. So 1 in 40 people. This is 10-fold higher. About 40% of Jewish women with ovarian fallopian tube cancer and 20% who have premenopausal breast cancer have the BRCA mutation. So I want to stress right now, before I forget, that just because you have breast cancer doesn't mean you have the BRCA mutation. It's more likely you do, but it doesn't mean you actually have that mutation. And the reverse is also true. If you have a BRCA mutation, and you've identified this through genetic testing, that doesn't mean you're going to get cancer. It's not a diagnostic test to say, okay, you have this mutation, that means you're going to develop cancer. It doesn't quite work like that. It just increases your chances. So a big portion of the night was kind of spent on understanding this concept, and that just because you have this mutation does not mean you're going to get this cancer. It is not a definite. You're just increasingly raising your risk up to 85% if you have this BRCA mutation for breast cancer. So BRCA mutations are associated with other cancers too. It's not just breast cancer and ovarian cancer. Other cancers are also fallopian tube cancer, pancreatic, melanoma, prostate, and male breast cancer. This is a population that is often forgotten in breast cancer, and women are far more likely to develop breast cancer, but men are also at risk for developing breast cancer. And this is at much of a less percentage. But if a male has a BRCA mutation, they're at much greater risk of developing this cancer. And just like women, they should have surveillance of their breasts to make sure that nothing abnormal is growing. This is a very forgotten population within breast cancer. And I had someone on the show, Amy Byer-Sherman, who was part of a documentary kind of highlighting this discrepancy between males and females having breast cancer. And it was called, I want to say Pink and Blue. I could be wrong on that, but it's on my website, so you can check that out. But I think the movie's out by now because I interviewed her last semester. So you can check that out at dnapodcast.com. So Robin also stressed the importance of genetic counseling during her presentation because genetic counselors are able to translate this genetic language to patients. They are able to be the translator of this very, very complex language because it really is a language that genetic counselors and a lot of other healthcare professionals and people in the field of genetics learn. And many doctors will order genetic testing when they don't understand the test fully and are not able to explain the results to their patients as a genetic counselor would be able to. Now, there are doctors that are good at this, that they really are trained in this. They are familiar with different types of genetic tests, choosing which panels to choose of testing certain genes, because all of these tests test different genes. It's not like you go and test one gene. Usually it's a panel of, say, 20 genes you're testing. And so some doctors are very educated in this, and they can select the right test. They can have their patient come in, they can explain the results to them and how that changes maybe their treatment options, different surgery options they may have. They may get prophylactic surgery to prevent developing a certain cancer, such as breast cancer or ovarian cancer. You can have prophylactic surgeries of both. And it can provide more information. That's really what genetic testing is providing more information so patients can make decisions having this higher level of education on their own bodies. And some doctors are not trained in this, and all genetic counselors are. So she really stressed the importance of genetic counselors being kind of filling in that gap between doctors and patients and their genetic testing and their knowledge of that. And even if they want to go through genetic testing, because people may think, you know what, I'm going to go in, I want to get tested for this. And maybe when they come out, they decide, you know what, I don't want to be tested for this, or the opposite. So after Robin's presentation, I was the moderator of a panel with a physician, a cancer survivor, a son of a woman with breast cancer, and Robin Schwartz, the genetic counselor. And we discussed the patient and family perspective of cancer, including how they were informed of their diagnosis and if there was a genetic counselor involved with their treatment. And they both said there wasn't a genetic counselor involved. And the son of the woman with breast cancer said the doctor really had a good understanding of genetics and was able to explain things really well and understand it himself. So he served the role as a genetic counselor really well. Now, for the other person, Laura, she explained that it would have been nice to have a genetic counselor because her doctor didn't explain these things. And even her father had the same cancer as her and explained most things to her. And the doctor really didn't explain a lot to her when she was diagnosed. So it really depends that you have some people that are really informed about their cancer and their options and their genetic testing, and you have others that really are not informed, and there could be so much more education there. So our physician of the night, Dr. Gates, explained and answered questions about breast cancer screening and surgery, and the audience was able to ask questions to everybody. And so it was a really good night to get a good inside look at genetic counseling and breast and ovarian cancer. So if you missed the event or are looking to learn more about genetic testing, the ethical controversies within that, breast and ovarian cancer, Ashkenazi Jewish people, and their higher risk for different cancers such as breast and ovarian cancer, you can check out facingourrisk.org. That's really great for the cancer aspect of things. And nsgc.org is the National Society of Genetic Counselors. And this is a great resource because you can find a genetic counselor that's near you by just doing a search of, say, within however many miles you want, 50, 25, 100, and you can find a genetic counselor. And if there's no one near you, it will help you figure out how you can have a phone conference with a genetic counselor. So it's a really great tool, and everyone is eligible for genetic counseling if you're interested, if you have family history of something. Most insurances, if not all, really do cover genetic counseling. And there really is pretty much never an out-of-pocket expense. So definitely something to look into if you're curious about getting genetic testing or just learning more, and then making your decision, because that's what genetic counseling is all about, to learn more, to make future decisions, and have more information in your back pocket. So I mentioned before that the Surgeon General has a family health history initiative. So healthcare professionals have known for a long time that common diseases such as heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and rare diseases like hemophilia, cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia can run in families. We've known this, that if you have people in your family, you're at a higher risk for developing that same condition or same cancer. So if one generation of family has high blood pressure, it's not unusual for the next generation to have similar high blood pressures. Tracing the illnesses suffered by your parents, grandparents, other blood relatives can help your doctor predict the disorder to which you may be at risk and take action to keep you and your family healthy. You probably are familiar with this. Is when you go to the doctor, they say, do you have a family health history of this and that? Pretty much whenever you go to any kind of appointment, you will be asked these kind of family history questions, and it's really good to know the answer. And if you are in contact with your family and you have those relationships where you can ask, definitely do. And if you don't have those relationships, it's not the end of the world. You don't need this information, but it definitely does help. So to help focus attention on the importance of family history, the General Surgeon, in cooperation with other agencies in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, has launched a national public health campaign called the Surgeon General's Family Health History Initiative to encourage all American families to learn more about their family health history. So there's this thing called the Family Health Portrait Tool, and Americans know that family history is important to health, as we are familiar with all those forms. And a recent survey found that 96% of Americans believe that knowing their family health history is important. So people are aware of this. It's not like there needs to be too much of a push for people understanding that this is important. Now the push is for people to actually go out and be asking their families and collect this information and kind of double check with people to make sure that's the right information. But the same survey found that only 1/3 of Americans have ever tried to gather and write down their family health history. So again, that push is to actually get the information now that we know it's really important. So because family health history is such a powerful screening tool, the Surgeon General has created a new computerized tool to help make it fun and easy for everyone to create a sophisticated portrait of their family's health. And this is kind of fun to do, and you kind of get to do a little digging and ancestry, and it can kind of be a fun thing to look back and see what you can trace in your family, who has what, and you might even hear some interesting stories while you're discovering this information. And the revised version of this family health portrait tool is a web-enabled program that runs on any computer that is connected to the web and running an up-to-date version of any major internet browser, so it's very accessible to the general public. And this new version of the tool offers numerous advantages over previous versions, which had been downloaded to the user's computer. And this web-based tool helps users organize family history information and then print it out for a presentation to their family doctor. So it makes it really easy to present, and your doctor can just take a look at it. So in addition, the tool helps users save their family history and information to their own computer and even share this family health history with other family members. So if you want to go and use this during this Thanksgiving and holiday season, you can go to familyhistory.hhs.gov. Again, that's familyhistory.hhs.gov. And every year since 2004, the Surgeon General has declared Thanksgiving again to be the National Family History Day. So over the holidays are times when families gathered. Definitely the Surgeon General is encouraging Americans to talk and write down the health problems that seem to run in their family. And learning about family health history may help to ensure a longer, healthier future together. So you can also learn more at surgeongeneral.gov. That's surgeongeneral.gov. And now I have a news story about UCONN and their relationship with Jackson Laboratory. They've had somewhat of a relationship over the last couple of years. The grand opening of the Jackson Laboratory for Genomic Medicine on UConn Health's campus in Farmington, Connecticut was last October, so a little over a year ago. And now they have signed their first agreement to launch a joint $7.7 million single-cell genomics center. And I'm going to read a quote here from Charles Lee, the JAX Genomic Medicine Scientific Director and Professor. He said, quote, "The ability to analyze a single cell at a high resolution is bringing unprecedented precision to biomedical research. This new center is not only one of the first in the world dedicated to single-cell genomics, but also represents the first JAX UCONN cooperative facility." And Jeffrey Seaman, UConn's vice president for research, shares, quote, "This new center demonstrates UConn's commitment to Bioscience Connecticut's goals to grow research and innovation through collaborations with world leaders like the Jackson Laboratory. This type of collaboration enables Connecticut to assume a position as a global leader in the field of precision medicine and allows for greater opportunities for UCONN research to make important, innovative advances in bioscience research." So isolating and working with individual cells poses a major technological challenges because you're really working on the cellular level and looking at just one cell. So even a single cell can be isolated. It contains only a small amount of biological material, so far too little for most research methodologies to use. But consequently, tissues are usually studied in bulk preparations containing a mixture of cells and masking important differences among underlying cell types and preventing assessment of cell-to-cell variability. So we're not seeing little minute differences between cells when we're looking at big groups of cells and tissues. So here we're able to really get down into the details of the cell. However, recent major advances in automation and microfluids, the design and construction of systems for manipulating very small volumes of liquid, is now allowing researchers to effectively analyze single cells in small, well-controlled reaction volumes. We're just getting down to that, just one cell. And Paul D. Robertson, the Jackson Laboratory Director of Single-Cell Genomics, shares, quote, "Single-cell genomic technology is rapidly developing. Therefore, it is important to have a lab dedicated to remaining on the leading edge of these technologies. So to ensure that biologists within the community have the best tools available to make an impact on their science, this center does exactly that and also provides a potential conduct to collaborate work between JAX and the UConn communities." So the new center will be located within the JAX Laboratory for Genomic Medicine on the UConn Health campus in Farmington, Connecticut. And very exciting to see that there's finally a signed partnership between UConn and JAX. And I'm sure it's the first of many to come since they're on the same campus and they're doing a lot of the same research. And they're both kind of becoming, as someone that I quoted just said, becoming really a pioneer in precision in biomedical research and precision medicine. That's something I talk about a lot on this show. And Obama has been behind this since he was a senator, of really stressing personalized medicine and precision medicine, which is the same thing. And it's just really important in treatment and kind of the advancement of not only cancer treatment and even possibly cures for cancer, but also other diseases and illnesses that can be targeted with this precision medicine. So very exciting to hear, and I'll definitely keep you all updated on future endeavors with UConn and JAX partnering up. But that about wraps up today's episode of DNA Today. You can tune in next week, Monday at 11:30 a.m. on WHUS.org or 91.7 FM to learn more about genetics. You can also visit DNApodcast.com, on Twitter at DNA Podcast or at Kira Deneen. I'm also on Twitter. And emails. I love getting emails. I love answering them on air and covering certain topics that you may be interested in, and I can do research for it. Or if you have something to share and you'd like me to record an interview with you. You can email in at info@dnapodcast.com, info@dnapodcast.com. So thanks for listening, and join me next week again, Monday at 11:30 a.m. to learn and discover new advances in the world of genetics.